Chase said these were weird even for Halloween, but that's how I know it's a winner. Hi friends, welcome back. If you're new, I'm Brooke, and this week I am so excited to share these super creepy DIY candlesticks with you. If you follow me on TikTok and scroll the comment section of any video where I thrift vintage dolls, you will see tons of warnings that I am going to get haunted. I got most of these last year and they haven't murdered me yet, so either they're very lazy or they're planning something really gruesome. I think it's fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine, right?
I shared a video last year where I go into detail on how to pull these girls apart and clean off the glue, so if you haven't seen my spooky doll head planters video and you want more in-depth instructions, pause this and go watch that first. I'll give you a condensed version here. This doll was pretty simple. After I pulled her wig off, I only had to snip the 2 strings holding her bust on the front and back. Others will be zip-tied or might even have glue. It's not important to get all the glue off. I just removed what I could and then sanded just to make sure it was as smooth as possible. To remove the eyes, I'm soaking them in rubbing alcohol. Acetone also works well. You don't have to remove them. I just like the look of the missing eyes, but you can save yourself a step here and leave them in if you like them. I thrifted some tiny dolls as well, and this little Scottish boy had underpants on. Like somebody actually took a piece of fabric and glued it to him because they thought he needed panties. I gave him a bit of a sanding as well, and now I'm going to start adding some clay to finish the doll heads. This is paperclay. It's an air-drying papier-mâché clay that is so easy to work with. I always keep a glass of water nearby and dip into it as needed because you want to keep it hydrated as you're working with it. Once you have a basic shape, you can remove the excess. I'm just pushing the clay and blending it down the porcelain so there are no harsh edges. Then you can go in with a bit of water and smooth it all out, trying to create as much of a dome as you can. This part gets a little messy, so don't be afraid to get in there. I use my entire hand, and when the clay builds up a bit too much, it will rinse off easily with water. For the rest of the dolls, I had to rebuild their skull caps because I removed them completely last year, so I'm just building this up with some newspaper stuffed inside and masking tape. Then I'll do the same process with the paper clay. This girl broke at some point, so I'm using the clay to repair the porcelain, and when this is dry, I'll fill it with plaster to give it a bit more structure. You don't have to fill the heads, but I recommend it since the doll heads themselves are hollow and light. This helps weigh them down. I'm just using basic plaster of Paris here. While those are drying, we are going to make some simple medallions to add a little detail and dimension. Roll your clay out to about 1/4 of an inch thick and use a pastry or ravioli cutter in whatever shape you want. I'm a big advocate for using whatever you can, and Christmas ornaments were the perfect base to mold these into a shallow dish shape. Be careful not to do this on special ornaments. I don't know if it was the vintage paint on these or if there's something corrosive in the clay, but when I peeled these up, they took quite a bit of the red paint with them. When your dolls are all dry, usually the next day, carefully drill through the center wide enough to add a wooden dowel for support. Dowels are at the hardware store and craft stores and come in all sizes, so just match your drill bit to your dowel size. I used hot glue because I was anxious to see it come together, but you might want to use something like E6000 and just practice a bit more patience than I did. You can also sculpt the actual candle holder from clay, but I'm using the tops of old brass candlesticks I thrifted for just a couple dollars a piece. Sometimes my visions don't always come to life quite as I imagine them, so when they do, I am elated, which is clearly the case here. I was so excited I had to put a candlestick in just to get a little preview. But this is short-lived. Keep an eye on that candlestick in the bottom right-hand corner now.
This is all broken.
You guys, it was shattered. It was so bad. But I was able to glue the little bust back together, and I filled in the cracks with clay and plaster. But I just want to remind you that things go wrong. I make mistakes all the time, and I just try to keep pushing forward. You can see I'm pretty miserable for the rest of the assembly, but I kept going, and it was fine in the end. So if you mess up, keep going. It will be fine. Once everything is dry, give them several thin coats of spray paint. I'm using an off-white color, which still ended up being a little too bright, so after they were all dry, I mixed together some of my own antiquing medium with Mod Podge, tinted with brown and yellow paint. Go easy on the colors. This is just supposed to look like a layer of aging. It shouldn't be opaque at all. I couldn't figure out what was missing. After painting and antiquing, they still looked so simple to me, so I added a bit of moss to one and dripped a ton of wax down the other two, and I really like the variety rather than adding moss to all three of them. When they're all sitting next to each other on my kitchen table, they look like they've been there for ages, and some moss naturally grew on one of them. To me, it's a bit more subtle, but let me know what you think in the comments.
If you make these yourself, please tag me on social media. I would love to see what you come up with. I am on Instagram at It's Brooke Darwin and on TikTok at Brooke Darwin. I'm doing Halloween DIYs every week up until Halloween, so if you don't want to miss anything, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Share this video, leave a comment. Honestly, it all helps. And it makes me feel so good. I'm not sure what we will be doing next week. It might be another DIY, but it might be a spooky pastry. So if you have a preference, leave a comment and let me know. And I will see you next week. Stay spooky.